Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. My name is Courtney, and on this Homemade Life, I do food and kitchen content. That means weekly grocery hauls and weekly what's for dinner style videos, which is what you're here for today. So if you like that kind of content, I really hope you'll consider subscribing and sticking around. Thank you guys. All right, for this week, we're still working on my back to basics meals, and that is really working out well for my family. We're enjoying the food. It is lowering grocery costs. All around, it's just working out great. So I've got 3 meals because they made so much food. There were so many leftovers. It would have been wasteful for me to continue cooking more meals during the week. And that would just kind of fly in the face of trying to go back to basics to save money now, wouldn't it? So fair warning, 2 of these meals especially make a lot of food. We're going to start off with this cheesy Mexican chicken and rice. This is a classic in my house. Everyone loves it. It is fantastic. And it goes by lots of different names on the internet. A lot of people call it, I think, El Pollo Loco. I'm just going to call it cheesy Mexican chicken and rice because essentially that is exactly what it is. I do not have a specific recipe for this, but I'm going to share the way I make it. So I make my own rice to go with it, but if you wanted to use like a packet mix like rice-a-roni, taco rice, or Knorr Spanish rice or something, that would be fine as well. I'm making it from scratch because I make Mexican rice from scratch pretty often. We eat a lot of rice in my house, so it's really no big deal. I started off with 1.5 cups of rice that I rinsed really well. I put it into my pot with some melted bacon grease and half of an onion diced, and I sauteed it until the onion started to get soft and translucent. At that point, I added in my dry spices. So I'm going to be adding 3 cups of water. So I put in 3 teaspoons of tomato bouillon. I also added in 2 teaspoons of chili powder and a little bit of pepper. Now here is my pro tip for today. If you are working with dried spices like me, toss them in your pan and saute them for a couple of minutes because it will really revive their flavor and just bring them right back to life. Once I had done all that, I added in 3 cups of water, pumped the lid on, and simmered it on low until the water was completely absorbed. Then I turned the burner off, fluffed it up, put the lid back on, and let it set for 10 minutes, and I had absolutely perfect rice. Now I'm going to make my queso for today, and I'm just doing some regular old Velveeta queso. So I've got I've got 1 pound of cubed up white Velveeta queso. It's just a store brand. I use 1 cup of picante sauce, and I used 1/2 cup of milk, and I just cooked it until the cheese was fully melted. Now, if you really want to level it up, I say use homemade pico de gallo instead of picante sauce. That's what I typically will do. And man, that is like the best queso in the world. All right, so now for our chicken. While the cheese is still melting, I've got some chicken tenders, so I just did the paper towel fork trick to pull out the little tendon that runs through there, but you could use any kind of chicken you want. It doesn't have to be tenders. It could be breast, it could be thighs, totally up to you. This is just kind of what I normally go to. I don't know why I'm a huge fan of chicken thighs. That's what I cook with 90% of the time, but for this particular recipe, I typically will go to chicken tenders. All right, so I'm going to season them really heavily. I am not shy with my seasoning. I'm using garlic powder, onion powder, smoked paprika, chili powder, salt, and pepper. And I'm using a lot of it. Like I'm really just not shy. I measure and season with my heart on a lot of things, and chicken can be really bland, and I feel like people don't always season it enough. So I'm kind of heavy-handed with it. Now, if you wanted to, you could use some taco packet seasoning mix on here. If you're a long-time viewer, you know I just don't like that, so I'm not. But if you do, that's perfect. You could use that too. I put a tiny bit of oil in there just so everything would stir around, and I mixed it till the chicken was completely coated in all the seasonings, and it's ready to go. Now we're taking a peek back at that queso, and the cheese is completely melted. It's creamy and delicious. This is the perfect time to grab a chip and do a taste test because, y'all, that's the only way to know if queso is fully done, right? All right. I've got the chicken now. I melted a little bit of bacon grease in the bottom of the skillet because that's just the theme for today. You know, I've got it. It adds extra flavor and it's free. So if we're going back to basics and saving money, then we're going to be cooking with some bacon grease, y'all. So I went ahead and melted some, and I'm throwing my chicken tenders in there. This did take 2 pans to cook them all because I did not want to overcrowd them. I really want to give them some space so they really develop a nice crispy coating on the outside. That's one of the benefits of using all those seasonings. It helps it to really, really sear beautifully and get a beautiful coating on it. So I just cooked the chicken until it was fully cooked all the way through and let it sear. And it doesn't take very long for chicken tenders. They're pretty quick. Now I like to just cut mine up into bite-sized pieces. You don't have to do that, but I put it on top of the rice and then pour the queso on top. And you've got dinner. I did serve it with a side salad. So we had some veggies in there just to, kind of make it a little bit healthy. All right, buffalo chicken bowl. So this is the first time I've made this, but it was really economical because I will link the original recipe down below that inspired this, but I used what I had on hand. So I'm going to be using those Bird's Eye Roasters veggies. It's a cauliflower broccoli mix. You could use any vegetable you want. If you had like fresh squash or something, saute it, that's going to be perfect. But I'm using these because I had 2 bags and I just popped them in the oven according to the package directions. All right, so I'm using canned chicken, my home canned chicken. You could use store-bought canned chicken, or you could just put some raw chicken in a slow cooker with half a cup of chicken broth and let it cook on low until it's completely done and shredded up. It's totally up to you. Whatever you've got available is fine, but I've got my home canned chicken and I really like it. Now, my home canned chicken is seasoned because I season it when I can it. It's raw chicken that I put into a jar, and I put onion powder, garlic powder, and salt in there. I add a tiny, tiny bit of water. And then when I can it, of course, it kind of boils itself in the jar and releases all that beautiful chicken broth. So it has a lot of delicious flavor in there. I did not use the broth that just naturally occurs in the jar. I put that in my dog's canned food. Or not canned food, in their homemade food that I make for them. I just poured it over the top of the chicken and rice that I had for them this week because I didn't need it for this. And then I just kind of flaked the chicken out into my skillet with a little bit of butter. I'm going to saute it just to kind of heat it through and break it up just a little bit, because when I can it, I cut it into chunks. And sometimes those chunks are bigger and sometimes they're smaller, and it kind of all sticks together when you can it, so I just break it up a bit. Once it is heated all the way through, I'm going to use some Frank's buffalo sauce because I think Frank's is the superior buffalo sauce, but you use whatever you like. But again, I'm recommending Frank's, not sponsored, just think it's the best. I'm going to pour probably about half a cup of buffalo sauce in there for my pint jar of chicken, and it was a full pint jar. So you can kind of work out those measurements at home if you want to. And we're just going to simmer this until most of the liquid is gone out of the pan. And that's it. We've got buffalo chicken and it's amazing. Now you could put this on top of a salad if you wanted to, but I'm going to be doing these bowls. So I've actually been cooking up some brown rice this whole time, which takes forever, but I have some and that's what we're using. So I've got brown rice as my base. I did shuck some fresh corn, got it off the cob. It's all in that bag. I'm going to use some for dinner, and then I put the rest in the freezer. I've also got some blue cheese because I'm a huge fan. Some homemade ranch dressing there. I love homemade ranch. I make it pretty often, especially during the summer when vegetables are in their peak, because we do veggies and dip as a side a lot in my household. Now, I don't have any buffalo or any blue cheese dressing, but I'll just put my blue cheese crumbles in there with the ranch and maybe like a slosh of Worcestershire sauce, and it tastes a lot like blue cheese. And there it is assembled: the roasted vegetables, the brown rice, the chicken, the blue cheese, the dressing, and the corn. I mixed it up. It was fantastic. The sweet corn with the spicy buffalo sauce is epic. All right, the last meal is beans and cornbread. And if you're from the South, I'm sure you've had beans and cornbread a million times. This is what I do to mine to kind of like, I don't want to say fancy it up because it's beans and cornbread. It's not fancy, but just to kind of add something extra. I use these little smokies, and you can get these on sale. So here's what I do. That particular package was not, that was a clearance item at Market Street. But typically Sam's Club will put their big pack on for something like $6.32. And it is 3 packages of little smokies. So that equates down to like $2 and some change per serving or per pound, which is what I need for this. So 1 pound of the protein was like $2 and some change. And then I added in my beans, which I used 2 cups. So that's like maybe $1 worth of beans. I'm adding in 8 cups of water. And then I'm going to season this. For my 8 cups of water, I used 3 teaspoons of beef bouillon. I'm going to add in some dehydrated minced onion. You can use fresh onion if you want, or fresh garlic if you want. I'm using garlic powder. So it's totally up to you, whatever you have and whatever you like. I'm going to also throw in some chili powder and some pepper. I do not salt this because that bouillon is super salty. But overall, so far, we've really used what we had on hand, but we've spent like $3 for the main, protein portion of our meal, the meat with the beans. And we're going to serve this over cornbread. I got my cornbread packets on clearance, which I will be showing you in a minute. You can make it from scratch, which is also very economical. Whichever way you want to go, cornbread is very, very cheap. So either way, it's going to make a very, very cheap meal. We're going to be eating for $3 today, really. Maybe $4, depending on if you have to buy cornbread mix. So it's very, very cheap. And this makes so much food. We could eat this for 3 days, y'all. But I just kind of gave that a mix once I put all my spices in there. And I cook it on low for like 6 hours or so. Now, if you're not going to be home, you might want to add a little bit extra water, because my slow cooker is a Ninja Foodie and it seems like it runs a little bit high. And so it does kind of run out of water. So I was gone a lot during the day, but I came home in time and there was still a little bit of water left in the bottom. But to be safe, you might want to do 10 to 12 cups if you feel like your slow cooker runs high. All right, we're just making this cornbread mix here. 2 packets, which you saw that I got on clearance at H-E-B for 16 cents a pack. Full price, I think, is like 46 cents at Walmart. So, I mean, Really, y'all, we don't have to be big spenders for this. It's going to be less than $1 for 2 packs of cornbread. And then follow the instructions. Every packet is different. This one called for 1 egg and 2/3 cup of milk. So I just doubled that. I added in all of my cornbread mix there and I gave it a good stir. You'll see it's lumpy and clumpy, and that is to be expected. Set it off to the side for like 5 to 10 minutes, and that will really help it kind of absorb all the liquid. You'll still have a couple of clumps, but not nearly as bad as when you first try to incorporate it. Now, I will tell you, being from the South, I do know that the best way to cook cornbread is in a cast iron skillet. But your girl's lazy, and that's not going to happen because cast iron skillets require a lot of special care, and I didn't feel like dealing with it on this day because it was a busy day. So I just pulled out this little rectangular or square dish right there and sprayed it with some nonstick cooking spray. But if you want some epic cornbread, you pull out your cast iron, you throw some butter in there, pop it in the oven at 400 until the butter's melted, and then pour your cornbread mix over that melty butter so it comes up the sides, goes up the top. Oh, so good. The edges of it are fried and crispy in that butter. It is so fantastic. But if you don't have the time for it, just do what I'm doing, and it's still super, super delicious. Bake it according to the package directions or recipe, depending on whatever way you're doing it. Mine is 400 for 25 minutes. We've got dinner, and just pour the beans with some of that bean juice over the top. Those little smokies are the best part because they cook in all that bean juice, the pot liquor. Oh, so good. Anyway, I will list or link all the recipes down below. I hope you guys will be trying these out at home. Super simple, makes a ton of food, and very economical. All right, guys, I will see you on Tuesday with my grocery haul. Have a fabulous weekend.